I'd like to just quickly take a minute to introduce our speakers. We have with us today Mr. Nilesh Thomas. He's the professor and dean at the True School of Music. Mr. Nilesh has over 18 years of experience with professional and academic interests ranging from live sound engineering, acoustics, digital audio, blended learning, learning technologies, to outcome and challenge-based learning. He currently leads the program and curriculum strategy at the True School of Music. He spent 15 years in Malaysia leading the design, delivery, and quality assurance of undergrad and TVET courses at the International School of Music in collaboration with well-known universities from UK and US. He has extensive experience in designing occupational standards and outcome-based learning models aligned to various frameworks set by Malaysian, British, and Indian authorities. In 2018, Nilesh led the design and development of India's first set of national occupational standards and qualification packs in music for the job roles of music programmer, music producer, music composer, director aligned to the NSQF. Mr. Nilesh has a Master's of Music Technology degree with distinction from the University of Newcastle, Australia, and remained active in the professional industry before returning to India. He serves as the committee member representing South and Southeast Asia in the Popular Music Educational Special Interest Group of the International Society of Music Endeavors. Thank you so much, Mr. Nilesh, for being with us today.
Thank you, Kripa. That was a lot of things. Thanks for that introduction.
I'm sure students are looking forward to interacting with you. Mr. Zubin, next we have Mr. Zubin Balaporia. He's the music director of Bandwagon Studios and keyboardist at Indus Creed. Zubin is the founder of Bandwagon Recording Studios, a premier sound recording and podcast facility at Mumbai. Bandwagon records and sculpts music and audio for podcasts, films and documentaries, TV and radio commercials, religious projects, albums, CDs, vinyl restoration, and audiobooks. Zubin is a founding member of the seminal cult Indian rock band and has performed alongside international rock artists such as Bon Jovi, Carlos Santana, and had an amazing gig with guitarist Slash from Guns N' Roses. Zubin has received multiple awards in India and internationally and enjoys a successful studio career, having scored music for thousands of projects for radio, television, and the Hindi film industry. Last but not the least, we have Ms. Shilpa Singh, a coach with a flair for humor and storytelling. Shilpa is an instant hit amongst thousands of students in her passionately delivered career workshops. Packing over 22 years of incredible work experience in career guidance, life coaching, HR management, and teacher training, Ms. Shilpa brings a holistic purview of the entire education and skill building spectrum from schools to organizations. Her youthful energy and bubbling enthusiasm are highly infectious and makes learning a fun endeavor. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here with us today. Shilpa ma'am, with this, I'll let you take over.
Thank you so much, Kripa, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. And Kripa was right, actually, in the sense that music is the one thing that I think binds all of us. Where words fail, we are able to express our thoughts, ideas, pain, hurt through music. Even if you don't understand the words, you get the meaning. So it is an amazing space to be involved in. But before I go any further, Zubin, congratulations on the new album. I see you guys have a new album out, so that's great to see. It's always good to have a band like Indus Creed that's been around so long back in the limelight. Always great to see that. What I want to be able to talk about today is music as an area of work, as an area of what we look at. A lot of parents are very happy to be able to have music as leisure. Go ahead, learn something, it's fine. And there is this whole process of this is not sure how much of a, it's a very high risk area. You want to think about this. So I'm very heartened to be able to see that we're paying much more attention to music as an education space, with having a True School of Music, being able to do that learning professionally and properly, and being able to get those degrees where it's just not that there's anything wrong with it, not the Indian classical only. We're actually expanding the whole platform too as well. But for students who are involved and for parents who might be watching as well, the point of music is not just the fact that, okay, I'm going to be able to play an instrument or I'm going to be able to do my singing piece, but for everyone, music is an element that is actually that requires a great deal of concentration. It requires a great deal of focus. You have to have very high resilience because when you're learning an instrument, you're learning to play music. It is a different element when you're learning to sing. All of those. So those are also skills that are carried forward in the world whenever it is that you're going in to do anything else as well. So the first question, I think I want to be able to uh, uh, put it to both of you, but maybe Zubin can answer first. So there is the 10,000 hours rule in order to become an expert. Does that apply to music as well, or are more hours required?
Well, the 10,000 hour rule is a great rule. But the thing is, for me, the practice actually never really stops. It goes on till, I mean, it should never really stop ever.
Yeah.
Because you just go on learning. It's a wonderful craft that we explore, music. And you just keep learning every day from some event or some person or some experience that makes you a better human being, a better musician, and somebody who's able to express yourself better musically. So I think I'm trying to remember, there's an interesting quote from a very famous Western classical pianist called Alfred Brendel. And he made this quote, he quoted this line when he was, I think, almost 80 years old. And he said, if I don't practice for one day, I know it. If I don't practice for 2 days, my wife knows it. And if I don't practice for 3 days, my audience knows it. So if you can say that when you're a master at 80, then, who's to say that only 10,000 hours is enough to get you where you are. So yeah, I think bottom line is practice is practice, and you have to really, really push yourself. And I'd just like to add to this that sometimes we are tempted to take music as a career because it seems to be a cooler option or an easier way out. I can get up late. I can wear any clothes I want to. I can grow my hair longer. That's all fine. But the point is, today it's a very, very competitive industry. And of course, you must join it if you're passionate about it. But you should never join it if you think it's the easy way out. You should only join it if you're really passionate and prepared to really, really put a serious amount of hard work into it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Nilesh, your thoughts on
Well,
practice?
yeah, I go with that saying of you're as good as your last gig, right? So you need to constantly reinvent, and in a lifetime you can only scratch only a small portion of what we call as the musical ocean, right?
Yeah.
So you need to constantly find new inspiration. You need to constantly find new ways of connecting with your audience. So perhaps the 10,000 rule applies to set your base, and you need to now stand on it and build from there. And how do you stay relevant, right? One of the things that we normally tell students is think about the bands that went through decades.
Yeah.
There are only a very few of them,
Yeah.
right? And then you have these artists and bands that come in the 90s, and then they slowly disappear, and then the 2000s. But then there are these examples like probably U2 or Rolling Stones, who managed to go through across the spectrum, and they didn't just do it by playing the same thing over and over again. They came up with newer, renditions, and they added new performance techniques around it, and created user experience that went beyond just listening to music. So this is not just about playing music, probably it is about how do you connect with your audience. So yeah, 10,000, I would say 10,000 is a great way to start.
It's a good start. Yeah,
Yes,
that
it's a good
makes
start.
sense. And I think music to a large extent also is what provokes commentary, and it provokes communication. It's thought about what's happening in society. And, when artists or bands are able to ask those questions and make us kind of sit up and say, yeah, you're right, so that does end up becoming an element there. So music is not just about being able to wear what you want and grow your hair long or whatever it is and partying and be a rock star. It's about also being able to make change happen. I mean, I think with the grunge movement, with what Kurt Cobain did, everything, there was a lot of questioning, even with somebody like a Marvin Gaye, who was more of a blues singer, having songs like, what's going on, which was talking to what was happening in society at the time. That's great. And you're right, absolutely. So for both of you, I think this might be a question that I think is a really easy yes, no answer question. So in order for me to make it in music, do I need to be a singer? is singing really important for me to make it in music? And I know I'm asking both of you for a reason. So,
Okay,
go ahead,
Nilesh, you
Zubin.
want to go first? Or
No,
should I?
no. So Zubin, you go.
Okay, so I'm going to put this in a little perspective.
Mm.
I think it's important for you to be able to sing in your head what you want to play or what you want to say. All right. So you don't necessarily have to be a singer, as in a singer, great voice, perfect pitching. If you have that, fantastic, super. But that's not the do all and end all. And it's not that if you can't do that, you can't have a career in music. Now, as Nilesh and I actually spoke about this some time ago, and the fact is that the singer is usually right in the front,
yeah,
in a band situation, and he practically gets a lot of the limelight. Let's be honest about it. And therefore, people think that, oh, I must be the singer if I want to be successful or whatever. But that's not true at all. The whole backline, all the musicians are contributing.
Yeah.
And in a band, the singer is only just 1/5 or 1/6. If there are 5 or 6 members, every member is equally important. So, yeah, from a career option, you don't have to be a singer to be a successful musician. But what's important is to be able to sing in your head what you want. So if you can communicate from your head into your hands what you want to play or perform, that is actually what I think most successful musicians can do really, really well. And that's something I strive to do, because your fingers tend to start doing things which are sort of muscle memory. You go to the same place on the keyboard or guitar after a while, the same scale. But when you're singing in your head, you're all over the place, and that's good. So if you can translate that to your fingers, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Great. Nilesh?
Well, for me, singing is one way of expression. And like Zubin was saying, we were talking about the multitude of career possibilities that probably, forget career, right? In order to bring a piece of music to people, the amount of work that you have to do behind, right from writing to producing to engineering to mastering, a lot of these things. A couple of years ago, Berkeley, they defined laptop as an instrument. Now they were looking at a genre of musicians who did not rely on a traditional instrument to express music, but the ability to create music using a laptop. And there was a lot of debate and discussion to see, is laptop really an instrument? And I think finally they agreed that if it is a means to create a musical form, why not call it an instrument? So the simple answer is probably that you don't have to be a singer to be successful in the music industry. But like what Zubin said, the ability to kind of play it in your head kind of helps you to kind of materialize it in different ways. That could be even coding music using a software, and who knows. And now you probably can work with AI, so that AI can actually kind of help you to bring out your creativity out. So yeah, I think that's what it is.
So I'm glad you brought up the AI point, which is what I think segues really nicely into my next question. Is in the pandemic, we've seen that whole element of just new ways of learning, and we've done the whole blended learning piece, and we've done the whole online learning piece. And a lot of the music releases had online releases. They were digital releases that took place for new music. Artists were putting out new music. It was a very different way. But for both of you, how has the pandemic, kind of impacted the music industry in one way? That's one question. Two, how has it impacted the process of what are the new ways music can now reach an audience through the AI element, or the what's happening with tech and how tech is working with music? I mean, one element is I've got more stuff on a keyboard that I can do that I don't need an entire band for, and that was something that was happening for a while. But how has the new AI element and tech element impacted both the music industry, and how you see new areas coming out of that? So whoever would like to go, Zubin first, I guess, since we've been following that order, if you like.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually for me, the pandemic has been the most defining moment for me to sort of kind of reinvent myself. And I think I speak for everybody around, those who have lost jobs, those who have had to go through terrible even personal issues, problems, sickness themselves, whatever. The point is that we have never come to a stage like this. At least in my life, it has never happened where I've had to seriously consider what do I do next? Because my studio was closed. live music, live gigs were completely dead. But we can't sit at home and for 2 years and say, oh God, there's no work and what do I do? You have to learn how to reinvent and make it work for you. So again, I'm going to give you a little example. My wife runs a small school for little kids, and she buys school bags and uniforms from a guy whose sole job is manufacturing these for schools all around Bombay. And he's fairly successful at it. Now, in the pandemic in 2020, also open till now. So no uniforms, no bags. This guy's income is zero. So how does he kind of reinvent himself? What does he do? He sent my wife a picture on WhatsApp, very crudely drawn, saying, "Ma'am, I have no work. I'm now making pizzas. Please order from me." So he's figured out that, this is not going to end. This is going to go on. I can't sit at home. I got to do something. Yeah. And we, of course, sort of did order from him. And then a little later, the next message came, was nice, a nice PDF, a nice image, pizzas all smoking and whatever, chef cap and all. "Ma'am, this is my new logo and please do order from me." Third message, video with music, and now we are serving Sikh kebabs rolls. So why am I saying this? Because this guy is innovative. He's figured out, okay, so I'm not saying musicians to start making pizza and Sikh kebabs and whatever, but it has taught us all that we have to innovate. I mean, part of my income came from playing live, and that is completely dead. So I have to figure out something else, some way I have to figure out how to make this work. So, and I think that's across the board, right? I mean, no business has not suffered. Yeah. So we have to learn how to innovate. We can't sit back and say, "Hey man, there's no work and how do we, make ends meet?" Something has to be done. We got to make it work somehow. All right. So one element is innovation that's coming in. That's going to be something that's going to be, I think everyone's going to need. Nilesh, your thoughts on tech and how it's working in, and what is it? What has happened?
It's very interesting, right? Because tech was always going to happen, and it is happening, right? Yeah. I think pandemic kind of acted as an accelerator. Right? I've seen memes which said the most effective change management in any organization was not any of your change management leaders, but it was the pandemic, right? Yeah, because you had no ways but to adapt. Yeah. So I think what happened is people kind of dropped a lot of barriers. There were times where a client would insist that I want to come to the studio, sit next to you and listen to the music and approve it. I'm sure Zubin is used to that. But now a lot of clients are happy to get on Zoom and then listen to music, or music gets piped to them and they listen to it at their homes and they give you feedback. So people kind of realize that, hey, instead of commuting 2.5 hours to go to a studio to just listen to a piece of music and say whether it's approved or not, I could use that time to do something else at the same time achieving what I wanted to achieve. Right? Yeah. We saw a lot of touring musicians, very good touring musicians, making themselves available to teach. Yeah. So in previously you couldn't learn from them. Even if you really wanted to learn from them, they were traveling, and even if they had time, they didn't want to really teach because they wanted to take that time to take a break or something. But now if you go to the internet and look for it, you really find top of the line musicians teaching. It's not cheap. Yeah. I'm not saying that they've all started teaching for a couple of pennies, but no, but that possibility came about. We saw teachers from across the world teaching in the university. So it is no longer doing a workshop or something like that. People are like, hey, I can teach an hour a week. I'm sitting in LA. Yeah, like I can teach the same way. Can sitting in India, can somebody teach contextual studies to someone who's learning music in LA? Right. How does Bollywood function? Everybody looks into Bollywood to kind of figure out how does this whole machine function. It's like a complex algorithm. Nobody knows, how movies are made without scripts and how music is created without scores. So I think people have accepted the fact that a lot of things can be done from home, a lot of things that can be done without traveling thousands of miles, and in high quality without compromising any of these things. So I've seen learning getting accelerated, work getting accelerated. Like Zubin, we have spoken to many other musicians who say that things have been happening, sitting at where we are. And people have also probably started opening up, look for work and clients beyond borders. Yeah. So you no longer have to be in Bombay probably to make it in the international music scene or national music scene, you can probably sit in a small village
Mhm, mhm.
as long as you have connectivity and you can reach out to your audience. So I think it has helped a lot, and I think it would probably help a lot. So I'd like to go back to that term of accelerator.
Yeah.
It has kind of accelerated many of these things. Yeah.
So a lot more technology and a lot more accessibility to your audience. Also, there is also that element of where, of course, it's taken away that aspect of being able to the touch and feel of being able to do a live.
Yes.
That's of course taken away from where you're not able to enjoy that live performance anymore. I mean, at least not for some time, a little bit more time, I think.
I think so. I think if you speak to most of the musicians, they'll say the thing that they miss most is playing with someone else.
Yeah, no, obviously it is.
And playing to the people, right?
Yeah, it's not as much fun if you're just having to do that to a screen. It just makes more sense when you feed off that energy of the crowd as well and being able to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in music. I love music. I want to be able to study music. I want to do music here, but I've got family or parents who are telling me, okay, this is not really a viable option for you. This is not going to work. How else can I stay connected to music without becoming a quote unquote musician alone? So what are my other options for me to stay connected to sound engineering, production, radio? How else do I stay close to music if I'm passionate or excited about music? What are some of your thoughts?
So how often have we heard that point?
Yeah.
Especially I think a lot of kids, parents are a little sort of worried what you want a career in music. I mean, why don't you look for doctor, lawyer, engineers, steady income, this, that, whatever, etc. And I think that's happened to everyone every musician must have faced this, particularly in India, when parents are worried about kids in a nice way, So the point is that, again, let's take a classic example of the Indian women's hockey team.
Mm-hmm.
Today, unfortunately, they lost in the semifinals. But if you see these girls, they've come from small towns, from places where, you can't wear a skirt or shorts and run around and playing hockey. I mean, it's unheard of. What they've pulled off is just unbelievable, coming from the background and the odds and the obstacles they must have faced. Forget even the other ladies, let's say wrestlers or boxers coming from a conservative Indian family. You cannot imagine when your daughter tells you she wants to be a musician or a boxer. I mean, it's crazy. But look where they've reached. Okay, they've done India proud. They've done their village proud. So I think there's a shift in the attitude of parents, and it comes a lot to do when you see a lot of these, I think, music shows, competitions on television, where you see talented kids singing, getting a break, earning some money, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think there is a shift in a positive way, and I also think that it's up to the kids, up to students to prove to their parents that I'm serious about this. Okay.
Right.
So again, if you're going to wake up every day and play 1 hour of guitar and then fool around, then your parent is going to start getting worried. Like, where is he going to? What's he going to do? What's she going to do? Where's this going to go? But if your parent sees you practicing 5-6 hours a day, writing music, performing, getting online, checking out YouTube, whatever, and there's no reason why you should do it. I mean, this is what you want to do anyways, right? So you should be doing it, So I tell a lot of students, like, for example, if you were doing your MBBS or if you were at IIT, those kids are studying 10, 12 hours a day to become great doctors, to become engineers, scientists, whatever. So you want to be a good musician, why the hell are you not studying 8, 10 hours a day, whatever it may be, play, perform, whatever it is. You can't be doing this, half an hour, 1 hour as a pastime. No, you want to be serious at it. You think you're at IIT Music, and then you start working very hard at it. So I'm hoping that, this will only get better as more and more success stories. And the good thing is also, we're seeing a lot of kids coming from smaller towns, like rappers from Dharavi. Dharavi is an underprivileged area in Bombay, and they're producing great musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So, so it's not just Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Calcutta, Hyderabad, Chennai. Smaller towns, smaller places are throwing up great musicians.
Yeah.
And I think the more it's encouraged, the more relaxed parents will get about, hey, there's if my child is really passionate about it, there's a future in this. I think possibly Nilesh is a better person to answer this.
No, I was thinking about what you told me a while ago about, one of your friends being a lawyer. And working within the industry, connected to music industry. Maybe I think you should just share that.
Yeah. So okay. So I've come across friends who wanted to do music as a career. They were musicians, okay, singers, songwriters, guitar players, whatever. Somewhere down the line, they figured very honestly, after doing some sort of soul searching,
Introspection.
that they're not good enough, that they're not talented enough, and it's going to be tough to make a living doing this. So what is your option at that point? You don't have to quit music completely. So some of them went to law school and focused on music copyright, IP, so drawing up contracts. Some of them studied music management, artist relations, that kind of thing. So what happens is, maybe you're not playing an instrument, maybe it's not your dream job, you wanted to be on stage in the limelight, whatever. All right, that didn't happen. But you didn't have to chuck that up and do something so far removed from music that you never ever were in contact with your musician friends, etc.
Right.
So you chose a parallel career around that, and you're still in touch with music, you're still dealing with music, you're still listening to music, you're still even playing music, but you're not playing music professionally. You're doing something else that is connected with music in a different way, and making it work for you financially.
So great. So there's music management. That's one area that I can get involved with. If I want to be able to stay close to music, I can get involved through the law side and be able to look at the IP. So great. So I have a alternate route that I can go in. And from the law side, actually, it's quite interesting. And I'll just let you continue and help me with this, answering this for the students after this, Nilesh, when you raise that. While I was working for a law firm, I think there was one time when we were doing an interview for this young lawyer, and the senior partner used to play bass, and the student who came, the guy who came in also used to play guitar, and they ended up talking about that for majority of the time, and then the guy got hired. I don't think it was because of that, but he got hired otherwise. And then these two used to get together on the weekend and jam. So I thought that was really cool because they were still being able to stay close, and that was kind of fueling their creative process of perhaps their drafting and everything else that they were doing. So that will still do that. So Nilesh, now to you, the alternate areas I can look at, where there is production, and of course Zubin can also jump in for the production piece, but production or sound engineering, because you said sound engineering before, and I was like, you're the man, you have to tell everybody about sound engineering.
Yeah, of course, because just to connect to what Zubin said in the previous question, like if you think about the music industry itself, right? Globally, it's probably about a $60 billion business.
Right.
And India, it's a couple of thousand crores, and that machine doesn't run on its own.
Yeah.
So you need right from technicians to managers to visionaries, right, to set this context right. So like what Zubin said, especially if you took at Vijaybhoomi University, right, one of the things that we managed to achieve by that partnership is the fact that now students can kind of decide to major in music and then pick minors in, let's say, law or business or design. So you can create that lateral extension of your knowledge pool, so that Zubin started out when we talking saying that you need to be kind of someone who can manage your entire career, not just play your music. You have to be your own business development manager. You need to be your accountant. You need to be making some creative decisions about how your music is promoted, probably.
Yeah.
But to get into the details and nitty-gritties, right? For a piece of music to come out the way it is, you of course need someone who conceives the idea and creates and composes the music. But then you need someone who will produce the music. Now, what do you mean by producing the music? Like somebody like Zubin will probably sit in a studio and get a vocal performance out of a singer in a way that the singer himself or herself didn't believe that they could do it. So if you think behind a lot of these major acts, you will actually find there were producers who worked behind to kind of push their musical boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? So that is one of the things that you can look at. Engineering is something that goes without saying. In the studio, a lot of times producers engineer themselves because they see it as an extension of their creative process. So instead of relying on someone else to tweak the knobs, why don't I just learn? Because if you ask someone like Zubin, probably he'll say that the engineering starts with composition nowadays. Like you are composing and engineering at the same time, right? So that happens. But then there is other side of it. Like for example, if you're going for a live concert, you need extremely proficient engineers to do the sound for you.
Yeah.
Because in most of the time, you end up playing a concert in the most unfriendly of the venues. When I was abroad once, someone asked me, where do you normally end up playing large concerts? And I said, in stadiums. And he said, what are stadiums designed for? I said, sport. And I said, what do you think the architect's brief for design is? He said, 10,000 people clap, it should sound like 100,000 people clapping. And you're trying to play music inside there, and you need to know extremely well how to handle what is going on. So that is there. Of course, there is a lot of engineering that happens behind the sound for film, games, what you see on TV these days.
Yeah.
So that happens. So production engineering is quite robust. No music comes out without the help of these group of people. It's like watching the credits of a movie, right? And I don't know how many of us do it, but if you literally watch the credits of a movie, you actually see the hundreds of people who actually did things to make that movie out. So I started out by reading the credits behind the cassette tape.
Yeah.
Right? So in India, nobody used to put who the engineer was. And I think A.R. Rahman is somebody who started that practice in the early days. And there were some cassettes that came with engineers from Bombay, but nobody used to do that in the past. So yes, so there's this big web of professional work that happens behind the space of music. And you get to know that only when you start talking to someone. Or you get to go on a studio tour or visit to something and say, hey, what are you doing, right? So that exposure is probably not as much as it should be in India. Like Zubin said, most of the people refer to the frontliners. There were times when expatriate friends of mine asked, like, does Shah Rukh Khan sing all the songs? And we are like, no, he doesn't sing, but there is someone else who sings. But then that song is probably created by somebody else, right? So there is this huge gamut of people who work behind, and these are robust careers.
Yeah.
Even music programmers. There are people who literally translate the musical idea from the composer or director into a tangible piece of music on a computer or a keyboard. And that programming is a highly refined skill. I'm sure Zubin won't hand over programming to anybody who can play a keyboard. He will be very particular as to who can program for him, you know, or people might rely on him to program music for someone else. So yeah, there are a lot of this exciting careers and career options behind the music scene.
So you mentioned engineering, and when you gave the example of the stadium where, you know, it's 10,000 people clapping, but it sounds like 100,000 people clapping. So obviously there has to be a really interesting in terms of a very sound understanding of acoustics,
Absolutely.
which at the end of it has to be a very sound understanding of physics. So sound engineering, I guess, then if I was to be able to say it, I want to be able to clarify that for the students who are online. If I want to look at sound engineering specifically as an educator, what are my prerequisites that I should be looking at for subjects? Now I'm talking about a very base level question that I would have. I want to become a sound engineer, or I want to get into sound production, let us say. What kind of base qualifications, what kind of subjects should I be studying in school for me to be able to study that later?
Zubin, should I go on that?
Nilesh, I think you should take this one first.
Okay, so see, these days there are a lot more options, right? But when I finished school, I wanted to study sound engineering. The only place that I could go and study an accredited sound course was the Film Institute in Pune, in India at those times, and that was a postgraduate diploma. And they insisted that if you wanted to get admission into a sound program, you have to either study physics as your degree or electronics as your degree.
Okay.
But it was very film centric, and they were not teaching concert engineering or anything of that sort. Now, going back to your question, sound engineering is an extension of physics and electronics, technically, right? So, but that doesn't mean that you need to have a degree in physics to get started.
Okay.
A fair understanding of basic calculations in physics would definitely help you to get into that. At the same time, if you're really passionate about it, you can come from an art stream and become one of the best sound engineers you ever see, because all it takes is that passion to learn things in depth. So when you sit in front of a mixer or when you sit in front of a software and you start really asking questions about what is happening beneath, what happens when I push this button, why is it sounding the way it is sounding when I turn this knob? So as long as you have that curiosity, you don't have to, you know, I wouldn't say that it is a must for you to learn any of the science subjects, because I've sound engineering friends who came absolutely from an arts background, and they were absolutely passionate about it and started into it. Now, if you really want to design things, now that's a totally different skill that we're talking about, right? Like if I want to design a guitar circuit, or if I want to design an amplifier circuit. Of course, then you need to have hardcore engineering skills,
Sure.
right? So the bare answer is, if you are a student who's doing grade 10, grade 12 now, and if you want to be a sound engineer, it doesn't really matter what you studied in school, because most of the schools that teach sound engineering will set you up from the basics.
Okay.
But you need to have that passion
All right.
to go beyond.
Right.
So you can't just scratch the surface and call yourself a sound engineer or a producer. Like Zubin said that in one of the questions earlier, saying that you have to be serious and you need to be willing to put that 10, 12 hours of learning a day to actually get there.
Okay. Great. Zubin, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, see, the whole thing about education when it comes to music or sound engineering is, the first question sometimes we get asked is, why do I have to learn this? Because some of the greatest guys I know never went to music school or never went to engineering school, which is true. I mean, the greatest of musicians didn't go to music school. The greatest sound engineers learned on the job. But my point is, now you have the choice and the option to do this better. And it can't be detrimental, right? To learn a subject, to learn something cannot be detrimental to your cause. So it's only going to add to your skill set. So you've already got the passion. You don't have the knowledge. Why take 10 years when you can learn something, and quickly get up to speed in 2 or 3 years? And now we have universities that teach music, that teach sound engineering. So why not take advantage of this? YouTube, that's another thing. Oh, I can learn this on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube is fantastic. I mean, I learned exercises and stuff on YouTube. They're fantastic. I can't even understand how people put up so much free stuff. So it's great. But YouTube, you're one person and you're listening to that. What you don't get from that is your interaction with fellow students.
Yeah.
And to me, if you're learning anything, it doesn't have to be just music, whether you're learning music or science or physics or literature or psychology or whatever it is. The most learning comes from your fellow students, and particularly, I think, in a field like music. So what happens is, you go to music school thinking that you're the best guy in the class, and then suddenly you see two guys who, and you're just blown away by how good they are, and that's a kick in your backside, and it basically tells you that you better go home and work hard, because if you're going for a job, these guys are way better than you, and they're going to get that one slot when there are 10 guys applying for it. So that's one thing, it puts a little whip, puts a little pressure on you to work harder. Second thing is your connections. You make friends with people who might be in your band, and that will be the next great band. And that's how a lot of the big bands in Britain were formed. They met in art school. I think Pink Floyd, a couple of other, The Who, great rock bands. They met in schools, not music schools, but art school, literature school. And they had a common passion for music. They got together, and those were the great bands that came together. So, for me, it's fantastic. If you can go to a place and so when True School of Music was here in Bombay, and they used to call me to do a few lectures and talks and stuff, I used to go there a little early and just hang around in the main foyer with all the music, because I've never experienced, young kids just walking around like a normal college, but they were talking music, they were discussing bands, they were discussing music, and it was fantastic. I felt like I was 21 all over again.
I like how you said normal college.
Yeah, normal. Yeah, we're still differentiating it and saying whether it's normal or abnormal college.
Yeah.
That's normal or the different college. You're right, because I think we still put music as an outlier. We still put music out there, and we would still say, art college. But we still say, okay, music college is still like, huh. But if somebody said UC Berkeley Music School, and you'd be like, yeah, okay, that's accepted, or that's going to be fine. But I think we still have that. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I do want to be able to ask two questions now. The first part of the question, I think Zubin will be able to answer. Both of you actually be able to answer the questions there, but I want him to weigh in first. How does a student figure out that music is where they want to go? I mean, that's one part. And so that's the first part that I want you to answer. Now, Nilesh, you'll also answer that for me. And the second part that I want you to be able to tell me is about the True School of Music and what you have to offer in terms of the courses and in terms of what is available for them to be able to learn. And if students in class 12 who've just finished their 12th are still eligible to be able to apply, and what is it that you look for in those students? So I've asked like a whole bunch of stuff. So which is what my job is now. You guys do the talking. So Zubin, first up to you. How do I figure out if music is it for me?
Okay, so that's a really tough question actually, and I have to answer it very carefully. But again, I'm going to go back in my own sort of in a little anecdote when I was young, and I was considering being a musician, as a profession. And I read somewhere in a magazine, there's of course a very, very famous drummer called Steve Gadd. He's played on thousands and thousands of records, American-based drummer. And he wrote, and I was reading an article, and he wrote that if you have any doubts in your mind about being a musician, you shouldn't. You should know. So actually, it was a big downer for me because I had a doubt. I was, and I was thinking, oh boy, then I'm not cut out for this, maybe. So it had the reverse effect. I mean, I don't think that's what he was trying to say. I think what he was trying to say is that just be very, very passionate about what you want to do. But as a young kid, I took it the other way, and for a week or so, I was a bit tossed, But then slowly, I kind of figured that, look, this is really, really what I want to do in life, I really don't, and I did BCom as in my college as a Bachelor of Commerce. And honestly, I just really wasted 5 years of my life doing that because I had absolutely no interest in that. I spent half the time sitting outside on the steps of my college. And I think the only positive thing that came out of my college education was I met my wife in college and we got married. So
it wasn't a waste of time, man. It wasn't a waste of time. And we're putting a little asterisk on that. This is not to say that the traditional degrees are bad. So.
Yeah. And so I was lucky because what happened was I started playing in the studios purely by chance. People called me, and I think at that time there was a niche sort of situation where they were looking for a young guy, 21, 22-year-old who could play keyboards and had a more modern approach to music. So most of the other guys were in their 40s and there were new music styles coming out, and I was more conversant with that than the regular guys. So I started being called for more and more sessions. So I have to say that, yes, I did work hard. Yes, I did a lot of practice. I was very committed. I went on time. I didn't, take advantage of the situation, but I was a bit lucky. So it kind of fell into place for me. And it might not happen for everyone that way. But the point is, if you're really passionate and you really know that you want to do this, you will have doubts. Who doesn't have doubts? I have doubts today. I'm 55 and I have doubts whether, oh boy, pandemic, how's it going to work, whatever. Everyone has doubts. I mean, everyone has doubts in every job, not this job only.
Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah, but the point is that I think you got to be really passionate about it. You really, really want to do this. That's the first thing. Doubts are fine. Squash those doubts. But again, I'm going to reiterate this point. You have to really, really work hard at it. You have to put in the time and effort into your craft, whether it's sound engineering, music, singing, whatever, video game designing, whatever you want to do. You got to spend a minimum of 8 to 10 hours a day working on this, and you'll have to sacrifice some what I call me time, the time when you want to do all your bullshit things like watching some really, really shit movie on Netflix just to chill out, or you'll have to sacrifice that. I mean, there's no way out because otherwise you can't make time to really, because let's face it, it is competitive. And again, I'm going to draw back on a personal anecdote. In 1993, my band Industry went to Los Angeles to record our album there. And after 3 weeks of recording, we were supposed to come back. But when we reached there, we figured that, no one's interested in a band that's sitting in Bombay. If you want to make it there, you got to be there paying, performing.
Yeah.
Now, LA is one of the hardest cities in the world to survive. Any city is hard to survive if you don't have money. But LA is the worst because everybody is there only for one reason, to make it big in the entertainment industry. And therefore, it is just horribly, horribly competitive. You're up against the best. But more importantly, so when I came back, everyone asked me, wow, was it? The studio must have been fantastic recording. I said, all that was fine. But what I learned from that experience is how disciplined and hardworking young American kids were. You called somebody on a session, he was there 5 minutes earlier. There was no way his cable was not working or his strings were old and rusty, because he knew that if he didn't cut it, there were 50 guys just waiting to jump in and take that place.
Right.
That's how competitive it was in 1993, and it has not changed in any way. It is as competitive today in India as well as there. And for the smallest thing, nobody did free work. So we got somebody to sing backing vocals on a track. He had to sing 2 lines. And we said, will you do this for me? He said, how much are you paying me? We said, we don't have money. We come from India, whatever. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not your friend or I don't know you for the last 30 years or so. It's a job. You pay me, I'll charge you $15. Can you afford $15? So we said, yeah, $15 is okay. He said, all right, I'll sing for you. So don't take me for granted.
Yeah, so
Value.
valuing your craft also is a
This
very
is my
important
art
thing.
and my craft, and I put a value on it, and I will not do it free for you. In India, we do a lot of things free. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We help friends. Of course, you should do that, whatever. But put a value on your art and craft because you worked hard for it, and now you're getting somewhere and you're good at it. So, bottom line is, you got to really work hard at it, and you have to have the passion. If you have these two things, there's no reason why you can not make a good living out of playing music or sound engineer or whatever it is.
All right, great. Nilesh, your thoughts, and also what is it that Vijaybhoomi is offering in terms of a degree, and what is it that you can look at specializations in so that students have that in?
Sure. Like, like what Zubin said, it's a very tricky question, right? When do you know, or how do you know that this is what you want to do? Because I don't think you'll find anybody who says that I hate music. Everybody likes music and loves music, but does just listening to music all the time makes you the right person to, to be a musician? But I think the most important thing is for someone to realize, how does music connect to other people, right? So I think that was the moment for me, to see how did music help as a vehicle to connect to other people, and how did it kind of help the people who were listening to when we were playing, or the music that we created. So that's a defining moment, and that actually tells you that music is something that you want to be involved in, not necessarily to become a musician. Let me recap what Zubin said. You can be involved in music in many ways, not just being a musician, right? You can be an engineer, you can be a manager, you can be a lawyer, you can be anything. But that tells you that music is what I want to be with.
Right.
Right. So I think I was probably lucky to realize that at a very young age. And I was, like what Zubin said, I was very focused, saying that this is what I want to do. And there was another realization, is that I started out playing bass, but then I figured that most people around me played much better than me. And that's the moment you try to see that, why am I not as good as them, right? Why am I not sitting and practicing? Probably I like music, but it's not my life to sit and play. So when you know that, then you try to look around and find out, how else do I stay connected to music? And then when I started engineering at a very young age, doing all the wrong things, I kind of clicked with it. I was very happy to do what I was doing, and it was again helping people, because if you come from a small town, most of the time your gigs are spoiled by a bad sound guy, right? They bring crude equipment, they set it up, and all your practice, whatever you heard in the room, never comes on the stage, and you can't hear yourself. So I started helping people by mixing it's a typical story. I'm sure there will be 100 engineers who tell you the same story, that I tried doing sound for my own band, then other bands liked it, they asked, can I do it for them? Then I did it, and I ended up being an engineer. So the bottom line is that it is not the joy that you get out of playing music, but it's the joy that you derive by seeing how others are being, touched by the music that you create somehow. And I think that gives you the confidence, saying that this is what I want to do, and I want to be a part of it somehow, right? And then you never lose it, and you will do anything at all that you can to stick with it. Right? If I can't be a bass player, I will become something else, and if I can't be that, I will become something else. But at the end of the day, I'm connected to the music.
Connected to music, yeah.
So now that brings us to what we offer in the school, right? So we realized long time ago that music or musical abilities are the only thing that will make you successful. So what really resonated between True School and Vijaybhoomi University is the fact that they have this model, what is defined as a T-shaped professional, right? So where the stock of the T is your core domain skill. So if you're a musician, that's the depth that you go into as a musician. If you're a lawyer, that's the law that you follow. But the T part talks about people skills and innovation and problem solving and things like that. So when something like pandemic hit, right, there were musicians probably who sat at home and said, this is the end of it. And there are people who probably put a different hat and said, now how do I bring my music to the people in a totally different way? So when you come to the university, that education is going to happen in that mode. So our students don't just study music or engineering alone. but they mandatorily learn a lot of other things,
Okay.
including fitness.
Mhm.
So students do mandatory credits on lifestyle,
Mhm.
which includes taking a sport, going for a trek, so all those things are kind of built into this process. Ashu, one of our founders, he often uses the term musicpreneur.
Mhm.
Like it's like you're so enterprising as a creative person that you create your own path, you create your own paths, right? So that's what you actually do. Now, in terms of program offerings,
Mhm.
we primarily teach music production,
Okay.
music performance.
Okay.
And when I say music performance, you can specialize in vocals, guitar, bass, drums, and keyboards.
Okay.
And within vocals, you can either do an Indian Hindustani track or a
Mhm.
Western track.
Wonderful.
Right? There is a Bachelor of Science or BSc in Sound Engineering and Production
Okay.
that goes through the entire spectrum of sound engineering, from studio to live to film to immersive audio and things like that.
Mhm.
Students can combine things and do dual majors.
Okay.
So you can also do production and performance together,
Perfect.
or you can combine production and engineering,
Okay.
or you can do music production and law as a minor.
Okay.
So you get these infinite combinations of what you want to study.
Mhm.
So unlike a typical university where the course structure is very rigid,
Mhm. Mhm.
here what matters is the credits that you earn. So there is a program structure that tells you that you need to earn so many credits in order to get a degree.
Right. Okay.
Now, if you want that degree to be in music, there is a subset of criteria
Courses that you need to take.
you
Yeah.
need to do. But then you're free to choose and build your course around it.
Okay.
So you can come to Vijaybhoomi University and do a music degree with a minor in marketing,
Mhm.
or a
Mhm.
minor in finance, or a
Mhm.
minor in design, or a minor in law.
Okay. Perfect.
Or you could come there and do a degree in law
Yeah. And do a minor in
with a
music.
minor in music,
Okay.
or with a
Great.
minor in music business.
Mhm.
So we kind of tell the students to define their own path
Mhm.
as to what it all goes back to what do you want to do, right? Like how do you want to fit in, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
So the year one is kind of viewed upon as an exploratory year, where you come in, you get to take courses from different schools, you understand these, what it entails to be a lawyer.
Mhm.
What I mean, oftentimes students get surprised when they really find out how much of learning is there in music.
Yeah. No, it's a lot
Right?
of it's a lot of
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Once they jump into it and they say, oh wow, this is not what we thought it is. Right? So it's very important for people to get used to that in the early terms. So we provide a lot of academic guidance and support when they come in. Kind of take these courses like taster courses and see if you really like it. Is that what you want to follow? So that flexibility is there. So we're very happy that that is possible within the university.
Yeah.
The university calls itself India's first liberal professional university, where the liberal part is quite stressed.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the guidelines kind of tell students saying that you have to do courses outside your major school. So you're kind of
Yeah.
pushing them beyond your comfort zone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Take it and see what it is. And imagine the learning that will happen when you have students from the law school and music school, or business school and music school working together.
Mm.
Right? And that kind of learning can never be replicated in a typical classroom. And we also do things like social immersion programs and stuff like that, where students are asked to go out and create a project that impacts, creates a social impact using your domain skills. So it could be music, it could be law, any of those things. So it's a lot of experiential learning as well. So just to recap, you have a BMUS or a Bachelor of Music degree, and you can specialize in production, performance, or combine them. You have a BSc in sound engineering.
Okay.
And just recently, we launched an MBA in creative industries.
Okay. Nice.
So it is a typical MBA bed with all your finance and typically the tools that you need to manage a business.
Mhm.
And you can specialize in music and entertainment or art and design.
Okay. Yeah. Those animals are a little different from traditional companies.
So that is done by one of the schools within the university called the Jagdish Sheth School of Management. So they do the the MBA part of it, and design school and the music school does either the music and entertainment or the design part of it. So it is kind of branded as a right brain MBA.
Yeah.
Right. So to go more towards the creative arts. So a lot of opportunities. So you can come, finish a degree, do an MBA on top of that. Who knows, you might come up with the next solution in taking music to the audience. So
yeah.
So it's a creative space, open space to explore and create your own future. So
super. And you guys are still open for admission for students who are?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We know that the results were late and a lot of
yeah.
things are happening. The school is still open for admissions.
Great.
We are expecting new students to start coming onto the campus by the 1st of October.
Okay.
And we already start online engagement with them in August.
Mhm.
So you can still get an admission. You have a window of another 2 weeks to kind of get into it and sort that out.
That's super.
Yeah.
I would like to be able to add one point. You all need to be able to add the music, the wind instruments, man. This is horrible. Everybody keeps focusing on everything else. Nobody plays the wind instruments when they're teaching them.
Absolutely. See, we would like to expand to music without a limitation.
Right?
Yeah. But that needs to be built in a systematic way. Now, no, we went from an abnormal college to a normalized college now with a proper degree. And once that is laid out, of course, we can bring in more instruments, wind, strings. See, music is kind of globalized now, right? Sorry. A lot of times people ask, what is the genre of Bollywood? Is it pop? Is it rock? Is definitely not Hindustani?
Yeah.
Right. So
at least not anymore. But yeah,
it's an amalgamation of all these different musical influences that is actually coming in. So I think we would really like to look at us as a instrument agnostic, style agnostic school, where music is in the forefront, right? That's what matters. It doesn't really matter whether you're playing jazz or Hindustani.
Fair point.
So yeah, hopefully we'll get there. So
yeah. My
just jump in and just say two things here at this point. One is, I was emphasizing in a class how important it is to have students around you who you learn off. But of course, let's not forget the teacher.
Yeah.
So, I went through a bunch of music teachers learning piano, which I was really actually not interested in as a kid. I wanted to go and play football and cricket and not sit and play a piano at all. But when I was 19, I studied with a jazz pianist called Mickey Korea. Now, Mickey was a very senior musician, jazz musician. He played in the music industry in Bombay. And I knew someone who's learning saxophone from him. So he said he teaches piano as well. So when I heard him play piano, I said, wow, he plays sax and piano. Then I discovered that he played violin, bass, and clarinet, and I think 2 other instruments. And every time I heard him play one of those instruments, I thought, oh, this is his principal instrument, but it wasn't. But the point was that he was such a fabulous teacher that, when you went for his class and you left, all you wanted to do was go home and play.
Play again, yeah.
You just wanted to go home and practice. And some days, we never really played anything. We just listened to music together. He didn't play anything, I didn't play anything. He just put on some music and said, listen to this. See how this guy's phrasing. See how this guy's playing this. See how this tune is arranged. And in that was a great learning. So he was not a trained music teacher as such. He never went to a music school that taught him how to teach. But he was just a born teacher. And I think that's what you get also when you go to a music school like this. So the learning is very holistic. It's not just theory and practice. Because I'm so glad Nilesh has outlined this course like this, because say for example you go on a trek now and you're walking around, all this that you're seeing around you is influencing you to write your own music. So if I lock you in a room for 6 months, and then tell you compose something now, you're going to compose a piece of music that is based on the fact that you were in solitary confinement for 6 months. But if I take you all over and you see this, and you see a play and a photography exhibition and a painting and an art school and a check and whatever, then you're going to make very different music when you compose, because where does it all come from? It comes all from your life's experiences, right?
Yeah.
So that's one other thing I'd like to encourage all music students is, follow this kind of approach when you're studying music. You know, look at photography, look at cooking, look at other parallel art forms, because they're all really connected, and that is everything that you imbibe is going to come out in your composition when you
Yeah.
start making your own stuff.
Absolutely. And I think I think not just for music, I think it's for all learning. Look at the world around you, because I think it just makes you a better manager, better psychologist, better HR person, better finance person. Just makes you better if you're more aware of what's happening and imbibing.
I mean, look at just look at cooking, for example. If you're a good chef, what's the difference between a chef and a great mixing engineer? To me, it's the same thing. They're doing the same thing, you know. The chef is saying, oh, you know what, let me try this little spice from here, because no one's ever used this, and add it. And because it might get a little spicy, I'm just going to put a little bit of this fruit here, which makes it a little tangy, whatever. That's what a mixing engineer is doing. He's saying, let me add this little reverb here, you know, okay, but if that gets too much, I need to just offset it. I don't want to bring that up. I'll offset it by bringing this up a little bit, so that it's just really the same thing. So all these art forms are really connected. So the more you're sort of versatile, and I mean, you don't have to become a great chef tomorrow, but if you study a little bit of that side, if you look at a great painting, the way the light comes in, the way a subject is illuminated, how different is that from a solo in a song?
Absolutely.
You know, when you have something that you want to push up front, right, in the mix, whatever, you know, that's your light, that's your spotlight. So it's all connected, you know, and I would really encourage musicians to step out and really study photography. When I say study, you know what I mean? Not learning from books. Look, observe, watch. Photography, cooking, paintings, it's all connected, all connected.
Super. No, yeah, thank you very much. You're absolutely right. I think that's a very important point for all the students that are on there, that are on here. To please keep your eyes and ears open about what's happening in the world. I can, you know, and I think it's wonderful that we have a true school of music that can actually now, in a more systematic manner, get you the music education you require. You have great ways of being connected to music. As somebody who learned music in school, I was part of the band. I was part of choir. Nobody believes it now. But it was truly the best possible time. And that's the only reason I wanted wind instruments. I used to play the saxophone, get the wind instruments in there, man. Don't neglect us. Yeah, and it is all about practice. I stopped practicing, and I think now I would probably forget how to play, but you learn how to read music, you listen to different types of music. There are plenty of options that allow you to be able to have that. But as both Zubin and Nilesh said, you have to be convinced. And I think when it comes to talking to your families and parents, if you're able to convince them of your passion, I think the road is fairly open there. So I do want to thank both of you for your time. Thank you so much for giving us your insight and for sharing everything with us. And I think for students today, it's great in terms of the platforms they have for being able to get their music or their sound out there, for more people to be able to, know about them. So great opportunities there. But thank you very much, everyone, for your both of you for your inputs. It's really very kind. Krupa, I think we wound down. So if there's anything you'd like to add.
No, I think we're good. Thank you so much. It was such an amazing session. I know my camera was off, but I was sitting here taking in, laughing, giggling. It was really a fun 1 hour that I've had. So many insights. And I'm sure our budding musicians over here have had the inspiration that they need to go forward and actually do it. So all the best, students. Thank you so
I
much.
think someone has requested the contact details for the university.
I have actually put in the link to the university.
So we'll just post it in one more time for all of you. There you are. You have the link for the School of Music now there as well. So thank you, everybody. And you can reach out to us as well in case you're not able to see that link. We'll be happy to provide you the information.
I have put down our email address. I'll just say it again. It's hello@mindler.com. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a lovely evening. Take care. And
thank you.
All the best, students. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Take care. Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Keep listening to music. All right. Bye. Thank you.